Welcome everybody. This is part of a mini series I'm doing talking about the Atreides, and I'll have a few other of these coming out. But we're going to start with ranking Atreides cards from super down to failure. So let's talk about what the definitions kind of are. S tier cards are cards I would basically trade any other card in the deck for. A cards are cards that are generally always useful. B cards, usually useful. C cards, less exciting. D cards, not very good generally, but occasionally are strong. And then F cards are cards I would generally trade any other card in the deck for. Now we're talking about Atreides cards specifically. I'll get to the Fremen deck at another time. So here we go. Let's start with the F cards, and I'll do one at a time. So the first one is the Voice. So force your opponent to discard a planning card of their choice and then draw a planning card. If this card was draw a planning card and then play a planning card, I wouldn't feel so bad. But imagine drawing this card right away and then using it. You're basically spending a dice to get a new card. Yes, you're forcing the Harkonnen player to discard one. However, very rarely is that going to be a good card because it's their choice. It's not even random. Maybe if you get this early on, that's okay. I don't know. I don't like that card. Next, Bill of Particulars. Move Imperium marker of your choice one step down. Don't activate the corresponding ban. Then play another card. Okay, it's a minor benefit, and then you get to play another card. However, this occupied your draw. So, like, it's better than a kick in the teeth, I guess. But moving an Imperium band marker down, really what you'll do here typically is move Scouting down one, and then that will force the Harkonnen player to pay for Scouting to push it up or to hold it in place. So maybe you'll get a better ban in the future. That's kind of how I look at it. Anyway, it's not totally useless, and if I draw it, I play it and then play another card, but I'd almost rather just have it in my hand to discard in combat. So, okay, I would trade, if I drew these cards, I would trade them for any other card in the Atreides deck. Okay, if I had to pick between these two, I suppose I would, I don't know. All right, D. Tested with the Gom Jabbar. Now, I am not a reader of Dune. I sort of like the movies. I don't know much about it. I'm going to pronounce things wrong. You guys are going to deal with it. Tested with the Gom Jabbar. Okay, draw a second secret objective card. You win the game by completing either of the two objective cards, then draw two planning cards. If this was draw a card and play a card, I would feel better. It's nice that you get to replace this card with two others. That's really the best thing about it. Sometimes having a second objective card is helpful, if you're getting unlucky with your eco stations or your objectives in general. I just don't love it. I would rather have most other cards in the deck than this one. Okay, Usul, the base of the pillar. Take a desert power action, then play a card. Again, very similar to, just the fact that you take a mediocre action similar to this one and then play a card. Now, to be fair, if you pair this with one of the better cards, like the attack cards, you can sort of turn any legion into Paul. You could do double worm sign and then play an attack to get the same effect as Paul Muad'Dib. But yeah, it's not terrible. It's okay sometimes. I usually hold on to that to discard if I'm short on cards. Okay, Truth Stance. Choose one unused opponent's action dice. On the next turn, the Harkonnen player must use that dice. Now, this is helpful in some circumstances. Also, being able to play another card or draw two gives you some flexibility here. So the bigger value here is the, if the Harkonnen player needs to deploy next turn, and say you can play truth trance and tell them, okay, you can't deploy, you're going to play a strategy dice instead, and then you're going to play another card that lets you attack or move right next to a village, and then they can't defend it. Like there are situational uses for these that make sense, but generally I don't love them. I mean, they're not terrible. They're okay. All right, there's a quick peek at those, and I'll hide these again. Okay, C. These cards are generally useful, and I will generally choose to play them for the effect rather than discarding. We're going to start with Smugglers. Okay, you Gurney lovers are going to hate me for this, but Gurney gets a C. Now, who is Gurney? Let's go ahead and grab him over here. Gurney Halleck is a strongest leader in the game outside of Paul, who he's tied with. Except he doesn't have the Desert Power ability built in, but he's a good Atreides leader. Okay, so C cards are not bad cards; they're just okay. So place Gurney and 2 elites in an empty desert area. That's all 3 of these. Now that helps you score some objectives, so that's useful. It also helps you maybe, like attack the North Pole, or a great spot to put Gurney is oftentimes here. So he can move up for this objective, or over here, threaten these, or maybe take the North Pole. But 2 elites on their own are often not strong enough. If I had my preference, I think I would probably deploy Gurney with this one here, rather than removing, and then for the secondary effect, meaning if Gurney is already in play, place 2 elites in the Legion with Gurney Halleck, move the Legion after placing 2 worm signs. That kind of gives him like a Sand Ride Paul surprise attack idea, except he can't then attack. And then removing vehicles, again, it's okay. It just doesn't get you anything fancy. And if Gurney is already in play but he is not deployed, then this card's not very useful. So anyway, Gurney on his own is okay. I will generally play him. He's generally not game breaking for me though. All right, so let's take a look at the last one here. Okay, Al-Mam Al-Mithal, the world of similitudes. Move 1 prescience marker, your choice, any number of steps down, and advance another prescience marker of your choice by the same number of steps, then draw 2 planning cards. Okay, I often use this. And if you're in a situation where you need to get to 10, and the right objectives just aren't out, and you're at maybe like 7, but you're at 7 on a couple of different ones, and you only need to be at 3, then this is often a game winner. So it's good. I don't always use it. Sometimes I use it just to replace it with 2 planning cards, or sometimes I discard it if it's an important battle. I guess you could think of these cards all as things that I might discard if it was an important battle, but I typically will play it. So, okay, quick look at everything. And think to yourself, okay, rather than Gurney or this one, would I rather have any of these? Rather than any of these, would I have any of these? And if you disagree, post in the comments, let me know. Okay, gonna hide these while we talk about B tier. B tier are good cards. B for okay, 85% or better. Most of these cards I will play every game if I get them. However, oftentimes they're not game breaking. Okay, Fear is the Mind Killer. Attach to any revealed prescience card. If it's claimed, advance any prescience marker by 2 steps. Similar to this one, but you get 2 for free. Oftentimes with similitudes, I'm dropping 2 steps and increasing by 2 steps. This just gives you 2 steps, and it's okay. So I like this one. Fear is the Mind Killer, I think, is good. Adab, the Demanding Memory. Discard permanently any number of revealed prescience card and replace them with the same number of cards from the deck, then play a card. Okay, I do like the then play a card piece, and there have been many, many games and many turns where you are getting objectives that you don't want, and games typically last like 2 to 4 rounds. So you're not always going to get to the bottom of the decks. You're at 16 cards total, right? So if you're at 16 cards total and you're going to say play 3 rounds, you're going to see 9 of the 16 cards here. Okay, so 9 of the 16 cards, this lets you see like an additional 3. So it's good. I like it. I play it every single game. I draw it. And just get rid of those objectives you don't want, or you can't score, or you don't need. If Paul is already Paul Muad'Dib and you don't have the 3, the 3 green objective to send him on an acid trip, then, just trash it. It's fine. Draw a new one. Maybe you can score that too. Don't have to wait till the turn after. Okay, war plan. Move or attack with any legion. If the battle starts, gain a combat dice during the battle round. Many, many times I will use maybe a house dice to play this, to do Mentat and then play this, or play it with a strategy dice, or if you play it with a regular strategy dice, it's an upgrade because you get 1 extra combat dice each battle round. You can play it with a Mentat dice if you can then draw cards, and then you have cards to be able to discard. You can play it, with a deployment if you need an extra attack. Very good card. Good combat ability. I like it. I oftentimes will play this. Aaliyah. Okay, Aaliyah beats Gurney. So ask yourselves, would you rather have Aaliyah or would you rather have Gurney? Now, Aaliyah has a prerequisite. Reverend Mother must first come in to play Aaliyah. And then after this, you get to play another planning card. This part is nice. I think this is an upgrade from Gurney where you cannot play another planning card. Okay. Aaliyah's ability is great. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I also like this. If Aaliyah is already in play, place a named enemy leader of your choice in the regeneration tank and then draw 2 planning cards. Not in the same sector as Aaliyah, just any named leader. So oftentimes late game, Harks are relying on Fade to do a move and attack. And you can just play Aaliyah, kill Fade, ruins their time, and then draw 2 planning cards to replace this, and maybe get some S tier cards or A tier cards. Okay, let's talk about Aaliyah briefly here while we're here. And we're going to do a separate section on leaders, but this is why I value Aaliyah more than Gurney. Gurney good at combat if you roll specials or have surprise attacks. And Aaliyah, if you have fewer unused action dice than your opponent, discard an unused dice, so take away their 1 surprise attack or their 1 deployment token that they need, then play a planning card. So it's like Reverend Mother in a way, in that her ability lets you use a card and gives you a benefit. I think it's really good, and you can use it with any house dice. So I think Aaliyah is better than Gurney. Again, if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. Okay. Onwards, A tier cards. We're almost there. There are 18 cards total, okay, in each deck. And you're going to draw 1 per turn if you don't use Mentats. And you want to get to a lot of these. So as Atreides, I often draw many, many cards until I usually get all the S, A, and B tier cards. After I draw all these, I'll slow down my drawing attempts. Okay. A tier. A is like I always play this. All right, Death Commandos. First off, I love the name. Second, replace 2 elites on the board with 2 Fadekin. That's very useful if you're planning an attack. Not necessarily useful for a defense, but useful for an attack. Then move, not attack, move 2 legions, each containing a Fadekin. So this is a very flexible card. Death Commandos sometimes are Harvester Killers, because you don't have the right dice for it, or Death Commandos can be, setting up the attack that you're planning on doing, or they could be scattering out to the desert so you can score an objective card that you need. This is a very flexible card. Now, typically I'm using it in conjunction with attacks, and if this were an attack, it would definitely be an S tier card, but I almost always play this every time I draw it. Okay. Our family atomics, very good. This gives you a level 8 objective as long as you're on step 4 of any prescience marker, which you should be by turn 2 generally. So I don't love the second take 2 consecutive desert power actions. I will point out that if you have already blown a wall, taking 2 consecutive desert power actions can very much soften up, Arrakeen by maybe, let's say you have Shai Halud out, you can play Shai Halud and then attack with Shai Halud and then do a 6 roll and kill 3 or 4 parks. That's pretty good. But the other piece I like about this is then play a planning card. This is very good in combination with one of the S tier cards, which we'll talk about very, very shortly. Okay, battle language. Battle language is move or make a surprise attack with a legion containing a leader. If a battle starts, opponent cannot roll more than 4 dice in the first round. Now, this part is great, but this is often a very necessity. This is so important to be able to have because you can disguise a deployment dice as an attack. You're got something in position, the Harkonnen thinks you're not going to attack, and then boom, battle language. Very good. Also, if you're attacking a full strength unit, having them roll 6, especially if you're doing a surprise attack and having them roll no more than 4, it's very possible they roll no shields and maybe you wipe the whole group. So battle language is good. It also is good for survivability for your troops because they're not going to roll more than 4 attacks. Maybe 5 if they've got a good leader in there where you're attacking, and you're likely to roll a couple of shields, so it's like survive. It's very good, very good. It's probably the best of the tier A cards. Maybe I should move that into tier S. You know what? I'm gonna do it. I don't know. Maybe might change that. All right, S tier. Voice from the Outer World. Place Paul and a Fadekin in any legion, then move or make a surprise attack with this legion. So it is like battle language, except you're putting Paul, and if it's Muad'Dib Paul, it's the best leader in the game. So you're placing the best leader in the game, guaranteeing a surprise attack success with the best leader, two attacks and a shield, and you're putting a Fadekin in there, which is removing a shield and also possibly rolling another dice. Best card, I would trade any other card in the deck for it, including Atomics, including Battle Language, including Death Commandos. And lastly, Shot, I don't know. The Leper? Leaper? Leaper? I don't know. Place 2 Fadekin and a Nabe leader in a siege of your choice. You know what? Maybe I swap Battle Language for this one. Here's the thing. 2 Fadekin is the best deployment token in the game. You have 1 deploy token with the double Fadekin. So this card matches the best deployment in the game, with the exception of it doesn't let you put out a leader of your choice. Now, if you're putting Fadekin out there, you can use them defensively. Oftentimes you're using them to bolster an attack. And the leader you're likely going to put out is Stilgar or Paul, or maybe Gurney if he died and made it through the regeneration tank. But, Paul is 2 attacks and a Nabe is 1. You likely, if you were making a aggressive move, you're likely not putting Lady Jessica or Aaliyah there. So I don't think a Nabe is necessarily a huge downgrade. I mean, it's not great. You'd rather have 2 Fadekins and Paul, or a leader of your choice, but anyway. All right, again, would you rather have battle language or the Leper chat? I don't know. I'm torn on those. Let me know your thoughts. Okay, one more